For more than 2,000 years, China had emperors. They signed decrees in red ink and claimed they ruled with heaven above them. Then the last emperor was 6 years old. In 1912, Puyi sat inside the Forbidden City while ministers argued over a document he could barely understand. One signature ended the Qing dynasty. The throne stayed in the palace, but the world around it had already moved on. To understand how a child could end something so old, rewind past the Qing, the Ming, the Mongols, the Golden Ages, the first emperor, and back to bones cracked by fire beside the Yellow River. This is the history of China and its dynasties. Before China was an empire, it was rivers, fields, villages, and memory. Later historians spoke of the Xia, a first dynasty of flood tamers and legendary kings. The records are thin, so we treat Xia as a beginning remembered through fog. The first dynasty we can hear speaking is the Shang. At Anyang, diviners carved questions into turtle shells and ox bones, then heated them until they cracked. Will the harvest fail? Will the king win the battle? Those oracle bones gave China something stronger than bronze. Writing, spoken languages changed from valley to valley, but characters traveled across time. The Shang used bronze vessels, ancestor rituals, and violence to hold power. Then the Zhou conquered them and introduced the idea that haunted every dynasty after them: the mandate of heaven. A ruler did not own power forever. If floods came, taxes broke the people, or armies rebelled, heaven had withdrawn permission. The Zhou began as kings over regional lords. Over centuries, those lords became rivals. The spring and autumn period became the warring states. Maps cracked into competing courts. Philosophers answered the same crisis. Confucius wanted moral order. Laozi wanted harmony. Han Fei wanted law, punishment, and a state like a machine. The machine came from Qin. In 221 BCE, Qin Shi Huang defeated the last rival kingdoms and made himself first emperor. He did not ask people to feel united. He forced unity into daily life. Coins, weights, measures, laws, and writing were standardized. Roads ran from the capital like black lines. Walls were linked in the north. Officials reported upward. Subjects obeyed downward. It was brilliant and brutal. The Qin built the shape of empire, but they pressed too hard. Peasants carried taxes, labor drafts, punishments, and fear. When the first emperor died, the system cracked almost immediately. Within 15 years, Qin was gone, but its invention survived. The Han took the Qin machine and made it livable. Liu Bang, a commoner turned rebel, founded a dynasty that lasted 4 centuries. Han rulers kept bureaucracy, roads, taxes, and commanderies, but softened the language around them. Confucian learning became the face of government. Routes west opened into the Silk Road. Paper appeared. Qin created the empire. Han made it feel permanent. But permanent is never permanent. Court factions, frontier pressure, taxes, floods, and hungry farmers pulled the Han apart. In 220 CE, China split into the 3 kingdoms, then into centuries of north and south, conquest and migration. Buddhism traveled in from India along the same routes that carried silk. Steppe peoples ruled northern courts. China did not vanish. It changed shape. Then the Sui reunified it in 589. The Sui were brief, like Qin, and almost as overworked. They built the Grand Canal, tying north and south. They pushed labor too far and collapsed. But again, the structure survived. The Tang inherited it. The Tang dynasty turned the machine into a world. Chang'an became one of the largest cities on earth, a grid of markets, monks, officials, merchants, and poets. Li Bai could raise a cup under the moon while envoys crossed deserts. For a moment, China felt open, wealthy, and enormous. Then came An Lushan. A trusted general rebelled in 755 and nearly destroyed the dynasty. Tang survived, but not whole. Regional military governors kept power. Taxes weakened. The center faded. By 907, the empire broke again into 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms. The question returned: who had heaven chosen next? The Song answered with scholars. Founded in 960, the Song reunited much of China and built an advanced civil government. Exams became a ladder into power. Printing multiplied books. Paper money circulated, cities grew. Tea, silk, bridges, workshops, and markets filled the south. The compass helped ships. Gunpowder moved toward war. But Song had a problem. It was rich, literate, commercial, and brilliant. It was also exposed. Horse empires pressed from the north. The northern Song fell in 1127. The court fled south and kept ruling from river cities, wealthy but vulnerable. Then the Mongols arrived. Kublai Khan conquered the southern Song in 1279 and founded the Yuan dynasty over all China. This was a conquest dynasty ruled by Mongol elites, but it still sat inside the Chinese dynastic story. Beijing became a capital of a world empire. Foreign travelers stared at Chinese cities with disbelief. Yet distance, hierarchy, floods, famine, and resentment ate at Yuan rule. Red turban rebels rose from hunger and disorder. One of them, Zhu Yuanzhang, had been a peasant, beggar, and monk. In 1368, he founded the Ming. The Ming sold itself as restoration. Native rule returned. The first Ming emperor, Hongwu, distrusted officials, landlords, merchants, and almost everyone else. He built a harsh, centralized state from peasant memory and battlefield suspicion. Later, Ming rulers built the Forbidden City, expanded the Great Wall, and sent Zheng He's treasure fleets across the Indian Ocean. Then the sea door closed. The voyages stopped. The court turned inward because politics changed. The empire still had farms, cities, books, porcelain, silver, and a huge population. But silver taxes clogged. Climate turned cold. Granaries failed. Officials lied. Rebels marched. In 1644, Li Zicheng captured Beijing. The last Ming emperor hanged himself behind the palace. A Ming general opened the gate at Shanhaiguan to Manchu armies from the northeast. They entered, defeated the rebels, and founded the Qing. The Qing were another conquest dynasty, but they became one of the largest empires in Chinese history. Manchu rulers took the throne, kept Chinese institutions, expanded into Inner Asia, and governed hundreds of millions. For a long time, the system worked. Then the old machine met new pressure. Exam halls still produced officials. Grain carts still moved food. Seals still stamped documents. But foreign warships arrived from the sea. Treaty papers forced ports open. Rebellions tore through the interior. Reformers argued for new schools, new armies, new laws, maybe even a new government. The mandate of heaven had become harder to defend. In 1911, soldiers at Wuchang mutinied. Provinces broke away. Revolution spread faster than the court could answer. In February 1912, the Qing abdicated in the name of the child emperor. Puyi did not conquer China, he inherited a throne that history had already emptied. Chinese dynastic history is not one unbroken empire. It is collapse, repair, conquest, restoration, and reinvention. The names changed. Shang, Zhou, Qin, Han, Tang, Song, Yuan, Ming, Qing, but the pattern kept returning. Rivers needed grain systems, officials needed exams, armies needed roads, rulers needed legitimacy. Whenever the seal cracked, someone else reached for heaven.